What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy Domuto. We're back with another video today. Watching totally not Mark, right? That's the name. Yeah, totally not Mark. And we're watching rewriting Dragon Ball Super Battle with Gods. All right, this is part one. So he's doing Battle with Gods first, and he's gonna be rewriting the story of Battle with Gods. So you know what I'm saying? Totally not Mark has some great videos, by the way. So we about to just get into it. Make sure you like, comment,
I think
subscribe.
we can all easily admit that Super had some pretty awesome moments from start to finish. But it did also have its issues. Big ones. So big, in fact, that I don't think I even need to specify what they are because you're already thinking about them. Looking at you, episode 67. But I'm not here to dunk on Super. Quite the opposite, in fact. You see, a little while ago, I tried to rewrite Dragon Ball GT, attempting to keep what folks loved while changing other elements to make something more consistent. And hey, a lot of you actually really liked it. How about that? Some of you even drew fan art inspired by it. That was pretty cool. Keep sending me those. But since then, I've been thinking something bigger. Super is far more popular with infinitely more moving parts to it, and it's spread across several movies and a series more than twice the length of Dragon Ball GT. Maybe it could be fun, so I tried. What unfolded was the most demanding writing exercise I've ever undertaken on this channel. So big, in fact, I couldn't even contain it within this single video. This, my friends, is Totally Not Mark's full rewrite of the 2015 revival mega hit Dragon Ball Super Part 1.
Okay.
In this three-part series, I will be altering and rewriting every arc of this modern story, which means everything from 2013's Battle of Gods all the way to Superhero in 2022 is totally fair game. Almost a decade's worth of story. Now, that's not to say that I'm aiming to change absolutely everything about this either. Similarly to my GT rewrite, my aim is to keep as much as I possibly can in order to preserve the soul of this series longtime fans love. And also so I don't have to work as much, but mainly the first one. Once all that is done and I know what I'm keeping, I will then attempt to trim and alter some of the less savory moments. We all know what they are. And hopefully, once all of that is changed, the final result will be something that feels like Super, without as many of its drawbacks, and a blueprint for a story that grants fulfilling roles to supporting characters that were otherwise neglected. For complete transparency, despite my criticisms in the past and the faults I believe this series has, I do, in fact, have a big soft spot for Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball GT, despite its clear upsides, represented for me a deflating end to the most formative story of my childhood, Dragon Ball Z. Whereas Dragon Ball Super, despite its shortcomings, represented a rebirth and promise for more. And more than that, facilitated a window through which I could kickstart my career online. I owe a lot to this show, and so it's getting my maximum effort today.
Okay.
So, just like I did with Dragon Ball GT, I am now going to go through the early Super material in order to identify the elements people love and preserve them as best I can for my eventual rewrite. First up is Battle of Gods 2013. I don't know if this is a controversial take, but in my view, Battle of Gods might be the best Dragon Ball film. And seeing as I know that there are already a bunch of you typing this in the comments, yes, I know this is titled as a Dragon Ball Z movie, but that was before Dragon Ball Super even existed, and it very clearly is part of the modern Super storyline. The anime even has it. So what do I want to keep? Well, the better question might be, at least for this film, what don't I want to keep? Its characterization is on point, it does a tremendous amount of narrative heavy lifting without feeling bloated or slow in its exposition, and of course you have some terrific action sequences with a brand new transformation that was informed by strong character writing also. But I do have some ideas. Instead of slapping this at the start of my rewrite and calling it a day, I want this rewrite of Super to kickstart my first major fix to arguably Super's biggest issues, its lack of story cohesion and long-term character development. Story cohesion is less a criticism of Battle of Gods and more so a far-reaching issue the majority of Super suffered from. Generally in storytelling, one of the many markers of a great narrative, and indeed some of the very best Dragon Ball stories, can be seen through how they are stitched together by a series of events informed by each other. I like to call this approach and therefore storytelling. Think of it like this, for example.
Okay.
Goku and Piccolo kill Raditz and reveal the nature of the Dragon Balls. And so therefore, Vegeta and Nappa overhear this news on their scouters. And so therefore, they travel to Earth for the Dragon Balls, willing to kill everything and everyone in their way. Because of this, Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, and everyone prepare for their eventual arrival. The story literally continues on like this all the way through the Saiyan, Frieza, and Cell arcs. There are, of course, some hiccups in the latter's material, but I'm also not making the argument that Dragon Ball Z is perfect either. What I am looking to add to this rewrite is a sense of continuity. I want to blur the lines between each arc such that the story feels less like a series of individual island arcs and more so a complicated ongoing story with natural cause and effect. And to help achieve that, I want to add substantial character development, starting with Gohan. Before anyone loses their mind, I am not about to make the argument that Gohan doesn't have a place as a family man or a scholar. In fact, my position is quite the opposite. I think if anyone were to look back across the entirety of Gohan's story, it's impossible to divorce his desire to protect his friends and family from the actions he's famous for. He goes to Namek for his friends and family. He's the first person to land a clean strike on Frieza, all because he's motivated to protect his friends and family. Everything this kid does, all the way up to his big moment in Cell, was in the name of those he cares about explicitly. It's foundational to his character, so instead of yeeting it, I want to leverage it like Toriyama did. Perhaps instead of having absolutely no story at all for Gohan until the universe survival arc, his story can be about the struggle he experiences trying to balance the life he has with the heavy responsibility that comes with being one of the only people with the potential.
Don't act like I ain't mad about him not being a diamond either. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm pissed off. You know, y'all can't just, I ain't gonna, the strongest character in the Boo arc, besides Boo, the Boo.
Potential to make a difference. And yes, that is basically the story of Spider-Man, but honestly, it's appropriate given who we're talking about here. Quite auspiciously, Battle of Gods is the perfect place to kickstart this brand new journey for him. While Gohan was the most powerful by far during the closing moments of the Majin Buu arc, the events of Battle of Gods are 4 years removed from those days. 4 years Gohan is focused on what he cares about most, his family and the life he wants to build with them. Unfortunately, just like the film, Beerus arrives. However, before we get into that part of the story, we gotta first talk about Vegeta. Unlike Gohan, Vegeta isn't exactly a character I can point to as one that didn't get enough love in Dragon Ball Super. Or is he? He's certainly the recipient of vast amounts of screen time and story involvement, essentially being the series' co-main character alongside Goku. However, even if we ignore the obvious low-hanging fruit of Vegeta always playing second fiddle to Goku, I do have my issues with his treatment in Dragon Ball Super. And that issue is, he doesn't really have an arc. At least not for a very long time. He definitely has moments where he establishes a goal and achieves them, sort of,
I get it.
But that's not an arc. What I'm looking for is an emotional journey that feels like a natural consequence stemming from the events of Majin Buu. In Z, Vegeta morphed over time throughout the story. From a psycho during Frieza, to a pathological narcissist during Cell, to a troubled and deeply conflicted man in Buu. His story cannot end there. He might have told
That's
Goku,
too deep for
you
Dragon
are
Ball,
the
though.
Dragon Ball Z or some shit like that, but what he did at the World Martial Arts Stadium borders on unforgivable. Thousands horrifically killed, not just in front of his wife, but inches from claiming her as collateral damage also. So all I'm saying is, perhaps there's something to build from here. Bulma seemed to have accepted Vegeta back as he is following Kid Buu's defeat, but who's to say that Vegeta forgave himself? One of the most interesting narrative choices made for Vegeta's character during Super wasn't even in the anime. It came from the Moro arc. Within the pages of this story is the answer to an issue I've had with Super since it began, and it came in the form of redemption and reconciliation for Vegeta. Confronted with the Namekians he terrorized all those years ago, Vegeta is filled with a profound sense of responsibility and purpose as their protector. The sins of his past weigh heavily on his conscience and inform a lot of the decisions he makes in that story. So I say, why not take that concept, expand it, and give it room to breathe across the series? Maybe in Battle of Gods, before Vegeta fails to defeat Beerus, perhaps he overhears Bulma talk about Goku, reassuring everyone not to worry because Goku will come to save the day. He always does. I think this is an interesting angle if nothing else to take his character. Maybe through acknowledging Goku as, quote, the best in Buu, a natural evolution of that idea could see Vegeta chase Goku in a totally different fashion. not for his power specifically, but for the security and trust such power can bring to those he treasures most of all. He wants to be more than what he was, and he wants to be someone Bulma can turn to as her first port of call. And if you don't think such a story is in keeping with Dragon Ball at all, I'd like to point out that a scene exactly like that which I described takes place during the Goku Black arc. So, now that we know what my goals are for these characters, how do I want to change the makeup of Battle of Gods to facilitate this change? The answer comes in the form of 2 medium-sized changes and 1 small one. We'll start with the small. Upon Beerus and Whis' arrival on Earth, I'd like Whis to immediately take notice of something unusual. He might say something like, well that's interesting if not alarming. What do you think, Lord Beerus? I can't say it's not surprising given the state of the planet. A cluster of Saiyans and now this? At any rate, we have more pressing matters to attend to, Whis. Let's say hello. During this exchange, I don't want them to specify what it is they're speaking about, but it will all become clear later, I promise, in due time. Now, for the 2 medium-sized changes. In the name of preserving as much of the original story as I can, I found a single scene that can be leveraged to inform the characters of both Vegeta and Gohan at once. And that scene is the Super Saiyan God ritual. In the original scene, the Super Saiyan God ritual requires 5 righteous Saiyans to pour their hearts or inner light into another. However, if I change that number from 5 to 4 righteous Saiyans, suddenly I can inject a brand new kind of tension. Now the number of Saiyans available isn't the issue, it's the righteous part that's being called into question concerning one character specifically, Vegeta. Perhaps instead of even entertaining the idea of facing the answer to that question of whether or not he's worthy, Vegeta dodges it entirely and jumps to another solution. Fusion Kakarot! He screams. The very notion that someone like Vegeta would even consider such an approach speaks to the level of certainty he has about his own lack of righteousness. But before Goku even has a chance to turn down Vegeta's offer, that's when Videl speaks up about Pan. This moment both creates an opportunity to sideline and isolate Vegeta through a significant insecurity he has, all the while placing Gohan into a sobering state whereby he's forced to reflect upon the last few years. Beerus threatens the very planet his daughter is about to be born into, and not he, nor Vegeta, or even Goku could stand a chance of stopping him. For the last 4 years, he's largely coasted along, fully believing that no one could possibly challenge his father, and yet Beerus did. And more than that, Goku didn't stand a chance. Had Pan not made her presence known to the group there and then, maybe they'd all be dead now. And undeniably, it would be partially his own fault for not preparing. Pan saved them. It's Gohan's turn now to make sure she never has to do that again. From here, the story of Battle of Gods can continue as normal. I think the addition of these extra scenes imposes at the very least something interesting to build off of. And so, now that we have the character explanations out of the way, going through the next 2 arcs should be a lot faster. However, unlike Battle of Gods, I do have substantial critiques for Resurrection F.
Okay.
And on the subject of movies, do you know how insanely frustrating it is to see headlines about your favorite shows coming to Netflix only to check on them? While Battle of Gods enjoyed some subtle changes that offer supporting characters opportunities for long-term storytelling, I don't think Resurrection F is a particularly great film. It certainly has some great moments to it. Goku's 1-inch punch was cool, Vegeta's beatdown of Frieza was great, and there were some other stuff too, I'm sure of it. Heck, unlike many keyboard warriors from the mid-2010s, I have since become a fan of Frieza's second run in the franchise. It is awesome, and I will not change much about it. Instead, my issues with this film largely reside within its structure and execution. Broadly, the key difference between Battle of Gods and Resurrection F is that Battle of Gods is a story supplemented by action, and Resurrection F is practically the opposite of that. It's one big fight surrounded by many little fights surrounded by even littler moments of setup and resolution, and that's kinda boring. But thankfully, we have the power of hindsight on our side, plus the character arcs I spoke about earlier, which will help too. But before we dive in, please understand that these changes are going to be more substantial than that scene in my Battle of Gods rewrite. And I'm gonna start by trying to think of a way this film can be informed by the last. And to do that, I gotta ask myself one question. What are the consequences to Battle of Gods? Well, Beerus is awake again, and therefore is back to destroying planets, which, given the Frieza Force is an intergalactic fleet, is honestly kind of ideal. Let's make it so Sorbet, alongside Togama and Shisami, are commanding their forces remotely to make one final push in order to secure a long-fought-after planetary stronghold. Only for... boom! In an instant, territory, countless resources, soldiers, and artillery are vaporized, never to be seen again. Now what? Well, now we've seen firsthand why Sorbet needs to make a rash decision and find the Earth's Dragon Balls to restore the Frieza Force to that which it once was. However, even the wish scene itself, I want to change slightly. You see, upon the film's release, a lot of people pointed out the fact that Shenron only granted 2 wishes instead of the usual 3 he was capable of. Now, obviously, this has been since explained away retroactively by Dragon Ball Daima, but in this rewrite, we are going to be making full use of those 3 wishes. Wish number 1, bring Frieza back to life. Pretty standard. Wish number 2, I want to keep the joke about Shu getting the money, because yeah, that was pretty funny. And finally, wish number 3, bring King Cold back to life also. Personally, I like the idea of bringing King Cold back to life for a specific reason I'll elaborate on later, but for now, let's tackle another small change with this opening. Personally, Frieza wanting revenge is a no-brainer, but I think the suggestion Frieza can make up the strength difference in just a few months is silly to the max. Why didn't he just work out before? Super Saiyan wouldn't be a big deal then. Anyway, I think having Sorbet bring a time chamber to Frieza's attention that his forces found in the meantime is way more satisfying. Plus, they did that in the Granola arc, so why not here? But that's enough of Frieza and King Cold. For now, at least. In a lot of ways, I enjoyed what Super did with expanding this film's material. So I'd like to preserve a lot of that training stuff too. It was my favorite part of this arc in Super, honestly. But what I would like to change is the makeup of how God Ki has worked and manifested itself in this series. Now don't worry, I'm not going to change how these Super Saiyan God forms look. Chill. Whis' training will of course focus on both Vegeta and Goku's ability to channel and manifest God Ki themselves. However, the results will be different. I'm not as big a fan of Super Saiyan God's implementation following the Battle of Gods film. For a while, it was simply a form attained only through ritual. That was cool. Until suddenly, Vegeta whips it out without said ritual. This isn't necessarily an issue at all, mind you, but I think treating that form with more reverence grants the narrative I'm trying to tell greater potential for drama. Perhaps once Goku arrives for training, Vegeta already had a head start with a rudimentary understanding of God Ki and how to harness it. However, his wielding of it, and this is important, doesn't result in a transformation, at least not yet. As time goes by, eventually Goku catches up, gaining some minor control of God Ki himself. However, this new ki manifests differently within Goku. For brief instances, this new ki allows him to re-transform into that red-haired Super Saiyan state himself. Now this does 2 things narratively. Firstly, it establishes the necessity for the ritual in addition to granting reverence for the form itself.
Vegeta won't have
Secondly,
Super Saiyan God?
For Vegeta, it's a shining red beacon of what he thinks he's lacking. Goku has access to this form not because he's necessarily more powerful or more talented than him, but because he suspects that he's a better person than he is. In Vegeta's mind, this is a gap which exists because of a fundamental flaw in who he is as a person. Someone who is unworthy of trust, someone who is unrighteous. Now naturally, time passes by and both of them gain a deeper understanding and fluency with God Ki, but while Goku has gotten stronger and extended the time with which he can operate within Super Saiyan God now, Vegeta has yet to show any comparable spoils for his labor. Now I can hear you already, let's get to the fight, but we do have some small obligatory exposition to get through first. You see, when Whis introduces the temporal do-over concept in this rewrite, he also goes on to explain that manipulating time is a serious offense within the multiverse. Going on to point out that both he and Beerus have noticed significant signs of past time manipulation on Earth, with the lingering scars of past rips through space-time still persisting. Furthermore, during Whis' training with Vegeta, a central motif should be that no one fighter can walk the same path of progress. Now, we will of course keep Goku's overconfidence being his largest issue and Vegeta's mental block being his inability to clear his head of distraction, always overthinking. Now, if you haven't noticed, this is very much a Vegeta film, and while Goku retains all of his story beats from the film itself, the emotional narrative is centered around Vegeta. This doesn't mean Goku won't fight Frieza first. He will, just in Super Saiyan God form, and with the fighting playing out exactly as it does in the original. Additionally, Gohan too will have some time to shine. I'd like to repurpose the training sequence he went through on the lead up to the Tournament of Power and put it here, because I think it really fits. No forgetting his gi, this time when Frieza arrives, he is prepared. The Z Fighters can have their shine and all that kind of stuff, but I want Gohan to play a fundamental role in helping ensure no one else needs to die. Just like the film, he can help Piccolo defeat Shisami, and even steps up to fight King Cold himself, fresh out of the chamber with Frieza. And get this, Gohan defeats him convincingly. Shaking, King Cold can slowly make it to his feet, only to be shot through the heart by his own son. So, where are we now? Oh yeah, okay. Frieza kills King Cold.
Right.
Frieza knocks out Gohan easily, followed by Goku and Vegeta's arrival.
But what
Fighting
form?
time. Yay, great. Well, okay, not for Goku because now it's time for Vegeta's story. And this is where the biggest deviation is going to take place. I would like to make Super Saiyan Blue a Vegeta breakthrough instead of one Goku introduces first.
But he ain't got Super
Goku's
Saiyan
fight
God.
with Frieza can have the golden Frieza reveal, while Goku makes do with his regular Super Saiyan God form. Plus, it's more shine for that because it's kind of cool. The story of the fight can remain the same. Frieza's inefficient use of his golden form limits his stamina and opens Goku up to an easy win. Until it doesn't. But what if once Vegeta does eventually step up, he's overcome by the past Frieza throws in his face? Perhaps as he stands opposite Frieza, Vegeta tries to follow what Whis has been trying to teach him, attempting to clear and calm his mind, to focus his energy, and to channel that God Ki he has only recently begun to come to grips with. And still unable to manifest in any meaningful fashion, Vegeta's focus could be then cut off by Frieza, who reverts back to his base form and extends an olive branch, offering Vegeta the chance to join him as his new Supreme Commander of the Frieza Force. However, just like the film, Vegeta throws that offer back in Frieza's face. He says, "Do you really think I'd join you when you destroyed the planet I was destined to rule?" To which Frieza responds, I see. How disappointing. Whatever about that simian simpleton these whelps are clinging to, I honestly thought better of you than this. A fool's a fool, but I know a liar when I see
Man,
it.
smack that
Planet
nigga,
Vegeta
Vegeta.
might be gone, but I made sure to preserve you. The others, of course, were incidental, Nappa and Raditz, hardly worthy henchmen, but they were loyal if nothing else. Whatever happened to them, Prince? Ancient history. Allow me to show you something new. With his attention divided between the task at hand, the others looking on, and Frieza's pointed words, Vegeta's ki control slips, leading to a sudden but inadvertent shift into Super Saiyan 2. Ah, to think I believed you weren't all talk. Then or now, I'd recognize that glow anywhere. A Super Saiyan King who discarded every subject he had left. How pathetic. Tell me, that woman you've been keeping an eye on over there? Does she know the truth? This is the moment Vegeta snaps and explodes into a violent Super Saiyan Blue transformation. Not too different to that which Goku demonstrated in the Broly film. A form that, most importantly, doesn't require any ritual. While trying to focus his energy, hearing those words, something inside Vegeta just gives way. Suddenly, he's overcome by a violent but singular focus. Torture this monster. Unlike the film, this is a cruel and uncomfortable beatdown. Unable to do anything, Frieza is the recipient of a vicious onslaught of attacks intent to agonize, but specifically not kill. Whis remarks,
Vegeta will fuck him up.
my, it seems vindictive anger is a potent method of clearing certain minds of distraction. Ultimately, Bulma can't look at this and Vegeta takes notice. Distracted for a moment by how his actions have impacted Bulma, Frieza leverages this reprieve to destroy the Earth itself, leaving Bulma alone with the others to mourn the loss of her husband. That is until Whis steps in with the do-over. What might come as a surprise to you at this point is that I want this ending to play out much the same way as the original did. With Vegeta slipping, taking too much pleasure in belaboring this beatdown and ultimately creating an opening for Frieza's last resort, the Earth's destruction, in the original film, I didn't really love this idea. I thought it was fine enough, but certainly not enough to warrant placement in this rewrite. However, if you consider how this ending hits with my changes to the story, personally I think it resonates more. King Cole's involvement in this rewrite intentionally mirrors Nappa's role during the Saiyan saga, a terrifying, powerful ally to the main threat, ultimately cast aside at the first sign of inconvenience. The speech Frieza delivers to Vegeta speaks to this mindset and successfully taunts Vegeta because a picture is painted. Frieza very clearly represents the part of Vegeta's self he resents the most. However, what saves Vegeta isn't his own efforts, it's the allies he has gained along the way. During his weakest moments in the Saiyan arc, he could only
Okay, he trying to
rely
make
on his
Vegeta
own
deep.
abilities,
Pause.
which led to his own downfall. All the while, Goku had the assistance of several allies to turn the tables. While Vegeta might appear confused and dejected by his own lack of control following this do-over, the subtle implication that he might not notice is that he has come a very long way. No longer the isolated monster Instead, he has since gained devoted allies that will bend time itself to help him in his most desperate of moments. The Universe 6 Tournament.
Okay.
Alright, so what's a Dragon Ball series without a tournament or two, huh? Super Dragon Ball Heroes, that's what. Gonna try to avoid that like a forest fire. But before we launch into the tournament craziness itself, we must first consider the introduction
Vegeta,
or
man.
setup for this arc. How can we improve this iteration? In the original, Champa and Vados show up uninvited, instigating this tournament between Universe 6 and 7 for the right to claim Earth as their own. I appreciate the angle they're going for here with a mix of haha, Beerus and Champa love food and we are nothing but the playthings of the gods, but that never really landed in a meaningful way for me, so can I do better? I'm not so sure, but maybe I can use events that were established prior in this rewrite to inform the motivations for this tournament while keeping some of that humor solid. How about following the conclusion to Resurrection F, Whis reminds those around him that time manipulation carries with it a serious risk of heavy consequences, which is why to this day it strictly remains a domain of the gods. And following this, Beerus suggests that they must pay a visit to Supreme Kai. Once there, Beerus immediately cuts through the pleasantries and asks Shin pointedly when the last time he used a time ring was. Shin looks confused. He keeps the time rings locked away after all, having only used them once or twice in his entire tenure as Supreme Kai, and not one of those times was on Earth. Whis explains that at certain locations on Earth, multiple remnants of past tears through time are still present. And this is when Goku chimes in and says, "Oh, I know what that is. That's Trunks. Trunks did that." From here, Goku divulges all of the details about a future version of Bulma creating a time machine and the fact both he and Cell traveled to Earth a number of times not too long ago. This is, of course, extremely concerning for both Whis and Beerus. If this is all true and occurred under the watch of Beerus and Shin, there might be repercussions if it's ever discovered by Zeno. Repairing the obvious rips through space-time is not within their power, and so Beerus suggests to use...
He's just trying to make Dragon Ball Super deep as fuck. Okay, alright. Okay, alright. I get it now. I get it. I mean, I like it. No, don't get me wrong. I'm just like, he want more story in Dragon Ball Super. That is
the super
enemy fight.
Balls. Through their retrieval of these balls, they come to discover Champa too is in possession of a few of his own in his universe. Not wanting to let Champa know what he wants to wish for, this could be where Champa makes the Earth wager for food and we can rejoin the original story until the tournament begins proper. And speaking of which, when it comes to the Universe 6 tournament, I generally like its framework. The knockout style structure offers some interesting flavor with plenty of exciting introductions to new characters, plus plenty of goofs and gaffs. I was tempted to dramatically restructure the makeup of the teams, but I'm so in love with Toriyama's ending with Hit and Monaka that I feel confident in some of its existing lineup. But before we get to the teams, I do want to point out that in this rewrite, the spectators that go to this tournament can largely remain the same with the omission of the Supreme Kais as well as Bulma and Trunks. Neither of these two were made aware of the contest prior and so are back at Capsule Corp. With that out of the way, let's go to the teams. In Universe 7, we have a team of 4, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Monaka. Similarly, Universe 6 has 4 participants, Frost, Vegeta, Kaba, and Hit. Personally, I didn't see much point in dragging Boo over to this fight only to just bench him, so if he has no part to play in the story outside of a gag or two, I'm happy to make this tournament a 4v4. Plus, that means we can also yeet Botamo, which automatically makes this rewrite 10 times better in my book. But if you do prefer them to be in this, let's just pretend that they both failed the test and fell asleep or something. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's get on to the tournament. Round 1, Frost versus Son Goku. Okay, so with this one, we can keep it largely the same. Frost beats Goku in the same way he did canonically. No one knows exactly what happened, but Jocko has his suspicions. Winner is Frost. Round number 2, Frost versus Son Gohan. Despite feeling confident that Frost is weaker than him, Gohan hesitates to engage, flashing around the fringes of the arena in Super Saiyan, avoiding Frost's attacks. Gohan is far from exhausted, but knowing how his father failed before him, he's lacking confidence in his own ability to succeed. In saying that, Frost does begin to slow down and eventually stops altogether. It's here Frost divulges his fake backstory, one that paints him as a hero of Universe 6. At this point, he knows that he's got no chance of beating Gohan in a test of strength or speed, so he resorts to leveraging his goodwill. Extending his fist as a sign of respect before their final flurry, Frost says, You are a remarkable fighter unlike any I've faced. While it is true I cannot give up, it is an honor to have shared the ring with someone so talented. As soon as Gohan reciprocates this gesture and touches Frost's fist in a show of respect, he slowly starts to feel woozy, opening himself up to a brutal attack, both shattering his left arm and sending him careening into the bleachers. The winner, once again, is Frost. Following this unfortunate conclusion, just like the original story, Jocko's eyes see everything, which leads to Goku's reinstatement, although Gohan is far too injured to re-enter the tournament on this occasion. Round number 3, Frost versus Vegeta. This fight once again can go exactly the same as the anime. I have no notes. His performance during Resurrection F will contrast this one greatly as Vegeta shows a supreme level of restraint. He accepts any terms required and takes out Frost in a heartbeat. Nothing flashy or indulgent, just business.
I love that part.
Winner, Vegeta. Round number 4, Vegeta versus Vegeta. Largely the same as the canon material, Vegeta's desire to not be anything like that which he was leads him to having a far more difficult fight than was necessary, resulting in him burning through a lot of energy needlessly. In the final moments of this fight, Vegeta starts to glow blue in a quick flash and sends Vegeta out of bounds. Following the conclusion, Whis asks Beerus what he thought of the fight. He says, it's a shame, really. So focused on what he can be without any regard for the astounding instincts that made him so surprisingly formidable in the first place. Naturally, Piccolo overhears all of this. The winner? Vegeta. Round number 5, Kaba versus Vegeta. I love this fight in the anime. Honestly, it might be Vegeta's best moment in the first half of the series, given, well, that's a pretty low bar, but still. Because of how Vegeta acted in my Resurrection F rewrite, this false anger he lashes out at Kaba with could easily be framed as a relapse, a spiral back into old habits yet again. However, as everyone watching this knows, Vegeta's clearly in full control, determined to help his fellow Saiyans when and where he can. Kaba is coached into achieving Super Saiyan for the very first time and simultaneously given a fleeting glimpse of a beautiful blue horizon to shoot for. Winner, yet again, Vegeta. Round number 6, Hit versus Vegeta. I really liked this fight exactly as it was in the anime. If I were to change anything for this rewrite, I'd suggest perhaps leaning into the fact that Vegeta's used up too much energy unnecessarily on the road to Hit and therefore couldn't come close to figuring him out. Winner, Hit. Now, before we get to the final fight, Piccolo could also overhear the back and forth chatter between Beerus and Whis as they discuss the prospects of losing this tournament and handing planet Earth over to Champa. I would imagine this news would be worth keeping under wraps, but it's also in character for Piccolo to share information like this with Gohan. And so, once he does understand all of the consequences and things at stake, once again, Gohan is faced with his efforts not being good enough, leaving his guard down against an opponent he could easily have bested and falling for such a cheap trick. Just like when he was a kid countless times, Gohan has to hope and pray that his father has what it takes to overcome that which he couldn't. Round number 7, Hit versus Son Goku. Before we get into this, I should preface that I will be slightly changing the anime sequence. But don't worry, I'm sure you're going to like it because I'm actually keeping all of it and only adding stuff to this battle. Allow me to explain. While this fight will on its own be awesome, it also highlights why I've decided to keep Goku largely the same in this series and rewrite, and why I haven't really expressed story from his point of view yet. The reason is twofold. Number 1, I don't want to change Goku because he is sort of inherent to Dragon Ball at this point, and I don't really want to mess with that vibe. And most importantly, I think he's a terrific character to act as a comparison piece to other characters on a journey, namely Vegeta and Gohan. Throughout Dragon Ball Z, Gohan looked up to Goku as this entity that had answers to everything, even when he himself was stronger than him. For Gohan to watch Goku in this moment solve problems with a cool head and with relative ease once again places him in a position where he's faced with the fact that he has a very, very long way to go. Once again, helplessly looking on with everything on the line as his father faces the unstoppable with an enthusiastic smile. For Vegeta, with us borrowing from the manga and leveraging Super Saiyan God again, this fight will once again serve as a reminder of what he cannot do. And what's more is, Goku improves as this fight rages on, he learns from seeing, and most importantly, he learns from doing. And during this fight, he reveals he's capable of Super Saiyan Blue 2, but that's not all. As if with ease, Vegeta and Gohan look on in awe as Goku shatters through the limits of that which each of them thought impossible, pushing Hit to the brink and overcoming some of the most complicated offense the series has ever seen. And while I will keep the ending to this fight largely the same too, the tone of this battle and how it has impacted those watching should
It was
be
a good
clear.
moment in
The
Super,
winner
bro.
is Hit. Round number
Especially
8,
when you used to Kyle
Hit
Ken.
versus
That was
Monaka,
hype.
which of course is the best fight of this entire outing,
Definitely.
complete with a wonderfully meaningful yet hilarious conclusion to this Universe 6 tournament arc. Monaka is truly the strongest of us all. Overall, this tournament was just a reinforcement of the prior themes and character arcs we've been carrying out over the course of this video. Complete with, and obviously not forgetting, the flashy bells and whistles of Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10 we all know and love. But a happy ending is not how I plan on completing this arc.
Okay.
Instead, amid the celebrations of the Universe 7 side, we cut to Shin in the world of the Kais. Something strange is happening. Looking down at his hand, he feels something he's never felt before. It's his ring. From here, we cut to Earth, and we see a portal open in the sky, and from it descends a curious individual above Capsule Corp. But whoever it is, they don't seem to be flying. Seemingly unconscious, perhaps gravely injured even, the individual crashes to the ground below. On their finger rests a ring bearing a striking resemblance to that which Shin possesses. Cutting back to the tournament, the preparations are
he had
being
a
made to
time
summon
ring.
the dragon from the Super Dragon Balls. However, Whis' staff begins to ring. It's Bulma. She's frantic. Amid the distress, one sentence shocks everyone within earshot. Trunks is back. Please, send help. And that, my friends, is where we're going to leave things
I like
off until we
that.
pick things up next week.
Did that. Okay. I like some of the change. You just trying to make Dragon Ball Super a little bit more story, put a little more dialogue in it. I feel that. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes Dragon Ball Super was just fight, new form. Anyway. But yeah, man, shout out to Totally Not Mark for this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Check out the last Totally Not Mark video I'll watch right here. And check out another Dragon Ball video you might like right here. And I'll catch y'all next time. Make sure y'all check out the Boot Handle podcast that's be in the description down below. Peace.